I'm Neuroscience.
I'm Vivian Cullen.
And we are so excited to be proposing our research proposal about a dose-response study on artificial gravity, on microgravity-induced intracranial fluid dynamics in mice. So our research question was, can microgravity-induced increased ICP be ameliorated by extended centrifugal exposure? We're going to talk about some significance and background information next. So you're probably wondering, what is the significance of sending a bunch of mice into space? And honestly, it's a really good question. So a lot of the things and goals for the future, especially for NASA and other commercial space companies, is to create a lunar habitat, another lunar landing, especially in 2024, and even a Mars landing. And obviously to get to Mars, it takes 300 million miles away, and it takes like 7 months. So you don't really want many health effects at least before you get there. And intracranial pressure and increased intracranial pressure is a big thing. Increased intracranial pressure causes space headaches, space migraines, and even causes like a lack of sleep and disturbed sleep. And we all know what happens when we don't get a good night of sleep. It causes team conflicts, and obviously if they're working on something on the rocket or on the International Space Station and it goes wrong, then that's not going to be good. And this isn't only a problem that happens in outer space. After they come back to Earth, it has been shown that the effects don't decrease. So if they have brain swelling or any type of brain damage, it will be extended for a longer period of time. Which is why we believe that our solution with the centrifugal to create artificial gravity is very essential. Because, you know, space exploration is the future.
What is cerebrospinal fluid? Cerebrospinal fluid travels through hollow spaces of the brain and spinal cord, protecting and providing them with nutrients. Prolonged exposure to microgravity causes CSF to pull upwards towards the skull and increases intracranial pressure. And in turn, ICP impacts blood flow, causing atypical arterial pressure. Because ICP and AP directly correlate, AP can be used to measure ICP, which is the data that we will be collecting in our experiment. What is artificial gravity? Particularly recently, astrophysicists have been investigating ways to induce gravity inside the ISS to mitigate motion sickness, migraines, sleep deprivation, etc. The way to induce this artificial gravity is through centrifugal force. Subjects would be placed inside a rotational device called a centrifuge that simulates gravity by creating an inertial force. Because the centrifuge would only be creating 1 G, subjects would be able to move freely. It is important to note that there was a centrifuge accommodations module designed for the ISS to conduct research but was canceled due to cost. We want to bring this component back. Above you can see a picture of the type of centrifuge we will be using.
And this brings us to the aims of our study as well as our hypotheses. Our first aim is to find a dose-related dynamics of artificial gravity, which essentially compares like the duration of the effect and for the administration of the dose. So we're hypothesizing that giving like the dose of artificial gravity in shorter intervals will decrease the ICP more than giving it in longer intervals. As well as this, we predict that you'll have lower ICP levels if you have continuous exposure to artificial gravity compared to intervals in general. Our next aim is to explore the duration of the ICP decrease related to the number of days that we're going to be exposing them to the ICP, or the artificial gravity. So we hypothesized that comparing like the more days that they're exposed to the artificial gravity, the less ICP they'll have in outer space. As well as when they come back, when they're exposed to more artificial gravity in space, their bodies should be more attuned to like the overall gravity, like the 1G force that's on the Earth. So they should be able to have less overall brain effects and like ICP effects in the future. Our third aim is to do a dose response curve for all of like the overall factors that we talked about, including days and intervals, to create an optimal artificial gravity dosage.
For our experimental design, we will start by inserting what's called a solid-state catheter into the artery that's in the back of the neck. It's called the internal carotid artery, and this is going to measure blood pressure and, in other words, arterial pressure while all this is happening, we'll also be recording their arterial pressure once a day for 50 days.
So, I would like to explain the procedure and the methodology of our experiment. This is on timeline/table. So, the solid lines that you see going across our table is how much artificial gravity treatment that the group should be receiving, and the dotted lines represent the arterial pressure that is actually supposed to be measured continuously and sent back to Earth through the software program throughout the entire experiment. So we have four groups. We have four groups. Our control group, which will not be receiving any artificial gravity treatment at all throughout the entire study. As you can see, the dotted line, it is only recording the arterial pressure, and they are not receiving any artificial gravity treatment at all. Now we have three groups that are also divided into three subgroups. Group A will be receiving artificial gravity treatment for 30 minutes all at once, once every 24-hour period, so almost once a day. And the second group will be still be receiving 30 minutes of artificial gravity exposure, but it will be divided into 6 5-minute intervals. So 6 by 5 minutes. This is going to be spread evenly across the day, giving 4 hours of time for the B group to be exposed to microgravity before being put back into the artificial gravity centrifuge. Group C will be having continuous exposure for the full 24/7, and there are two variables that we're checking right now: the dose interval, which is what I just explained, and the dosage duration. So how many days? We obviously don't want astronauts to be in the centrifuge the entire time. It's not practical. So group A, as you can see, the subgroups. Group A1, B1, and C1 will be only receiving artificial gravity for the first 10 days. And then afterwards, they will stop receiving treatment to see how much that helps with intracranial pressure. Groups A2, B2, and C2 will be receiving up to 25 days of artificial gravity exposure. And then we will see after, for the next 25 days, how much the ICP is increased. And groups A3, B3, and C3 will be receiving artificial gravity treatment for the full 50 days. But remember that groups A, B, and C have different dose intervals. So this will help us determine which interval is the most optimal for our astronauts. Anyway, yeah, so it'll last 50 days.
For our anticipated results, we expect the B group to be the most effective when it comes to dose type dynamics, because having multiple artificial gravity treatments each day will allow the circulatory system to re-regulate the arterial pressure to make sure that it doesn't reach dangerous levels before the end of the day. And we also anticipate that the groups who receive artificial gravity treatment for 50 consecutive days will also be the most effective for duration dynamics. And for A number 3, it is expected that the group that never experiences microgravity at all throughout the experiment will have the least amount of arterial pressure because they receive the most treatment. And before we move to the next slide, I'd like to stress that even if the actual data doesn't match the anticipated results, this research proposal should still be heeded by anyone who's interested in long duration space flights, because artificial gravity has incredible potential in increasing and enhancing not only productivity on space missions, but also the longevity.
Limitations, social and legal implications, and economic considerations. For our limitations, we have funding, storage capacity, and gravity variations built in terms that may affect the post-space flight data accuracy. Temporary exposure to microgravity or hypergravity while returning re-entering the Earth's atmosphere will also provide more insight into how AG could impact our real mission. Because of the equipment and the transportation of the mice from and into space, it will be very expensive, so we will need great funding and investment. For our social and legal implications, mice share a lot of similarities with humans, such as facial expressions, emotions, fear, and pain. So they're going to provide very accurate and effective results. With the risk of potentially harming the mice, we will have to use some form of sedation while testing. Our ethical considerations. How long is it ethical to keep a mouse in a centrifuge? Because the centrifuge is only 1 G of force, it won't be harmful to the mice, so it can easily move and will still be able to do it. How ethical is sedation? Each mouse needs to be sedated while the catheter is being implanted. Not sedating the mice would cause them a lot of pain, which is why we sedate them. Because it is a fairly short procedure, you would only need a mild dosage of anesthesia.
And to clarify, the sedation would be for inserting the catheter into the
They were not like sedated in space. And for our references, I would like to just specify that there were 2 studies done, like with mice actually being sent to space and put in a centrifuge done by the Japanese space exploration program. So, yeah, we borrowed some of their data and focused on dosage.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank all of our judges, Dr. Leva, Dr. Kay, Dr. Wurzman for all her help, Dr. Shook, and Dr. Giordano, all the LI staff for giving us this opportunity, and obviously Miles for being the best team lead. I hope this presentation was out of the world. Thank you.
Physiology test pilot from the Marines sitting right over there.
So, a couple of things. This is very, very good. So let me have a couple of questions and a statement. Question number 1, can I adopt you? Like Question number 2, the Japanese study you used, that was the study that came from Koji's lab, right?
Oh, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly right.
Oh, Koji, our Koji?
Yeah.
Oh.
So a very good friend of mine.
We know him.
That works.
He works
Right.
with us. He collaborates with us on optics.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, we got optics. Oh.
yeah, so this comes from Koji Tachibana's lab.
Oh, so cool.
So the guy who did this work I know him very well. He's a good
Yeah,
friend. He's a good
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
In fact, his book's getting published with Brill. So
I have a photo with him.
yes, you do.
I mean,
Yeah,
he and I
he's-
still correspond occasionally.
Yeah, no,
I
yeah,
completely
he's-
forgot he was
He's
space.
a really great guy.
Oh.
This was simply brilliant. No, I mean, in its presentation and in its articulation. I mean, you built upon existing studies, which is exactly what we do in research, so you can see a little bit farther than they did. You applied the mouse model, which is great, and all the considerations that go into it, with specific implications towards not only space flight, but return. So I have something for you, all right? This is not something I give to a lot of people. This is a facsimile of my United States Naval and Marine Corps wings. You've earned these. Those are flight surgeons' wings. You guys are like junior flight surgeons. I swear to God, this is great. Monica, over to you.
I'm just blown away. I'm really, really proud of each one of you. That was incredible, well thought out, executed precisely. Great job. Well done.
John Shook.
You're doing dosage. One wrinkle, you already know that probably microgravity doesn't need to be tested really, if you've got some mice. You could do something that helps it translate more to the human activity in space, namely, I mean, you're on to duration, number of days. What you could do is something more interval. In other words, have mice only get 8 hours or only 16 hours. Because a typical astronaut won't be able to stay in I mean, unless it's, 2001 A Space Odyssey and they're going to Jupiter. It'll be intervals. That's one little wrinkle. If you got some extra mice, give it to them only a portion of the time. But other than that, this is an eminently doable project, and you've got us all a shiver with excitement. We're over the moon with this.
Faye.
I had a great time listening to you guys. I was having a blast over here. I was probably distracting Monica. I was like, yeah, let's go. So, yeah, it was like a pep rally for me. And you guys were so animated. You were so into it. Very professional the whole time. But I think the basis of a really fantastic presentation is having this level of excitement that is contagious, even if I don't really know what you're talking about, and that's not what my background is. Like, I got so excited because you guys were so excited, and you really sold it. I'm sold.
We have more
So.
details in our proposal.
Thank you.
I know you guys did. I know they actually thought about that, but they had to They actually thought of eliminating. I'm so proud of you guys. I really am. Like, I mean it. Like, I completely forgot about Koji, but yeah, I think you should absolutely submit this for that contest for pitching something.
Could you do me a favor?
NASA.
Could you go back to your title slide for a second?
Yeah. Really, like the dose response curves, everything. I mean, just thinking about your careful consideration just of the experimental groups.
And move this way just a little bit. Just
Yeah.
move to your, everybody move to
Yep,
your left.
there you go. So you're not blocked there. Perfect.
Now we can
Stand,
see you.
stand just a little bit closer. There you go. Okay. I didn't even take any.
I'm sending this to Koji. Right, like,
Koji Tachibana, yeah.
You'll probably
Yeah.
get a reply pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock in the morning there. It's probably up.
This is important. This is great. It's well thought out. We were so excited while we were watching. We were geeking out so hard we couldn't keep our mouths shut. And you know what? You guys, I don't think anybody else has acknowledged this yet, but you guys did a really good job of rolling with the judges, just having side conversations and being so excited we couldn't shut up. And you guys just like kept going. And that was also just really good, really professional. Sometimes audiences do that. Yeah. I mean, your understanding of experimental design, the complexity and the sophistication of this project, the relevance, yeah. I want to see this done. I want to help you guys make that happen.
We were kind of thinking that since because of the funding, we might as well just like go big or go home.
That's
Yeah.
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 I love
Yeah.
I mean, somebody will be willing to fund this one day. I believe it. Hopefully. I think it's
One of us can take it up ourselves.
All right, guys, thank you again.